AOC, man, I have to tell you, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she is quickly becoming the U.S. Congress's version of Karen. She is the biggest Karen I think we've ever seen in the U.S. Congress. Congressional Karen. I'm telling you, when it comes to like whiny, entitled elected officials, she takes the cake. She wants everything the way she wants it, and she wants it now. It reminds me of like taking my mother to Outback Steakhouse, and the steak comes back medium instead of medium rare. And I mean, that's it. You don't want to be anywhere around her when that happens. And the same is true of AOC. She must just walk in to Congress every single day and say, I'm sorry, I need to see the managers. Things are just they're just not right. She is just very upset with Republicans, some in particular, but in general, Republicans overall, because they disagree with her. Also, she thinks that every single Republican in the Senate, in the Congress, pretty much elected to any position, is an insurrectionist and a war criminal and should be thrown out of office. Here she is on the Rachel Maddow show. I'm going to play you the long clip, and then we're going to break it down because there's a lot to it. Listen carefully. Here we go.
There is a resolution that has already been drafted, and I'm a proud co-sponsor of it. This is Representative Cori Bush's resolution to investigate and to essentially sanction and expel members of Congress that have been found by investigation to be essentially working with the folks who flew a Confederate flag in our nation's capital. And I don't know how many of my colleagues need to be reminded of this, but the Confederacy were a band of enemies and traitors to the United States and insurrectionists themselves. And they are not part of the United States, have never been part of the United States, and will never be part of the United States.
Okay. This is okay. Look, and again, nothing against the Bronx, but if you're going to send somebody to the Congress, which affects the rest of us, please make sure they at least have a basic middle school education before you send them there. And again, we're going to break this down because there's a lot to this. There's a lot of parts of this. The first part about this resolution that she's co-sponsoring with Cori Bush. Cori Bush, by the way, is from St. Louis. She just became a congressperson. She literally has been a congressperson for a week. Like, I have facial hair that has been on my face longer than she's been in Congress. That's how new she is. And the first thing she did, the first thing that Cori Bush did as a Democrat, as a congressperson, as a representative of St. Louis, Missouri, the state that Josh Hawley's from, is introduce a resolution to kick out Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and a bunch of other people that they disagree with. It's not making the country great. It's not getting you money. It's not the coronavirus vaccine. It's not any of that. It's getting rid of people that they disagree with, namely Republicans. Here's what else AOC had to say.
Sanction and expel members of Congress that have been found by investigation to be essentially working with the folks who flew a Confederate flag in our nation's capital.
All right, so now she's talking about these senators that were pushing to object to the electors from these states where there were some questionable election practices. Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Mo Brooks in the House of Representatives. She's pushing to oust him. A bunch of other Republicans who supported and objected to, in fact, over half of House Republicans she wants to get out because she now believes that they are working with the people who bust into the Capitol on January 6th and waved a bunch of flags, one of which was the Confederate flag. She believes that they gave tours beforehand to their constituents who traveled all the way to Washington, D.C. They gave tours of the Capitol building, and she believes they weren't just sightseeing tours or things that, you would do for your constituents if they came to support you, your first day in Congress. No, she believes they were reconnaissance missions, and they were gathering intel for the attack that was imminent on the nation's capital. And for that reason, she believes they should be treated as insurrectionists.
I don't know how many of my colleagues need to be reminded of this, but the Confederacy were a band of enemies and traitors to the United States and insurrectionists themselves.
All right, no, I'm not taking the side of the Confederacy, but everything she said there is historically inaccurate. It's wrong. I don't know how many of her colleagues need to be reminded, but the Confederacy were not insurrectionists. They were secessionists. They literally said, look, we don't like your policies, you're infringing on our rights. We're going to go do our own thing. they wanted to leave, and Abraham Lincoln is the one who declared the war. So they weren't insurrectionists at all. But again, facts don't really matter to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Number one, because she doesn't know what they are. And number two, because it doesn't push forward her agenda, which is Republicans are bad. We need to get them all out of Congress in any way, shape, or form.
And they are not part of the United States, have never been part of the United States, and will never be part of the United States.
Also factually incorrect. They were part of the United States. They seceded, they rejoined the Union, and they are today part of the United States. So South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, they're all back. They're all right there. You can see that they're part of the United States of America. So again, I don't know where she's getting her information about the Civil War and U.S. history, but it's factually inaccurate. And then here's what she's really pushing for with these senators and Congress people that she disagrees with.
My belief is that if they believe any investigations, particularly law enforcement investigations, will find them complicit or perhaps even assisting in such an attack, they should resign before they are removed.
They should resign before they are removed. Why would she want them to resign before they're removed? Because she knows it's impossible to remove these people. First of all, they're not guilty of anything. All they did was go up and object to the Electoral College votes from these certain states, which in the Constitution is clearly their right to do. It's actually the most legal thing you could do as a representative of your state who disagrees with the electors that came out of those states that are, of course, questionable. The second thing is she knows they'll never be removed because you need 2/3 of the House of Representatives. And right now there's like, what, 432, because there's 3 empty seats in the House of Representatives. There's 432 congressional delegates in the U.S. House of Representatives, which means to get rid of any one of them, Mo Brooks or Lauren Boebert or whoever else they want to throw out, you would need the math is tricky, but something like 68 Republican congresspeople to vote to oust them. And with the 10 traitors that we know already voted to impeach Donald Trump, you still need like 58. So that's a lot of Republicans you would need to have turncoat in order for that to happen. So she knows it ain't gonna. But it doesn't matter. She's still congressional Karen. She doesn't care what the truth or the facts or what the probabilities are. She still wants what she wants, and she wants it now.
I have demanded the resignations of Senators Ted Cruz, Senators Josh Hawley, Republican minority leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy, along with many others.
And also, my steak was cold and my lettuce was wilty, so I'm not paying for this meal. And I'd like to see the manager, please.